poppin', y'all? It is your boy Gardi3, and welcome to Coffee and Sports, the morning show. And you know how it is. Got to introduce you to the crew. Joining us this morning, well, every morning, this is the house that he built. He is Mo Better. How you doing, Mo?
Hey, what's good, Brett? What's good, Seven? Appreciate you joining us this morning. What's up, chat? Let's get it.
Absolutely. And of course, also joining us this morning, baseball extraordinaire. He is Seven. How you doing, sir?
Man, the stove is hot. I've gotten little sleep. That's why I'm wearing sunglasses. I don't want anybody to think my eyes are bloodshot for a reason they're not today, because the stove is hot right now. I can't wait to talk about it.
No, absolutely. And that's fair enough. We had some great, baseball news going on. Well, we had a big trade. We had Suarez. He went back to Seattle. He was there for a brief stint earlier in his career. I did want to ask you about that, because what do you think about that trade? And do you think it works out? Because we saw it earlier. He struggled when he was first there, but he was also a lot younger. So how do you see that move breaking down?
I think this instantly catapults the Seattle Mariners into an ALCS lineup. You have the co-leaders for RBIs in the league. You have two of the top 5 home run leaders in the league. They have probably one of the strongest and most consistent 1 through 6, I would say, at least in the American League, possibly in the league. I understand that there are teams that have more highly regarded players in their 1 through 6, but when we look at body of work so far this year, right now, when you add in Eugenio Suarez into that lineup with the Mariners, it's unbeatable, and it's virtually unbeatable. Eugenio Suarez's time in Seattle was a little turbulent his first time. It wasn't exactly the best experience for both sides, but he grew up. He got down to Arizona, got some of those good tamales in him, kind of slowed down a little bit, saw that the food tastes better down there, kind of settled in a little bit. And we started to see him really come into his own as a player. That's a good thing. The Diamondbacks coach, Torey Lovullo, is very much a player's coach. Anybody that's played with him, played for him, they will tell you that he is a player's coach. And so that's why we've seen the best come out of Eugenio Suarez. So I think the kid that's going, the player that's going back to Seattle is a different player than the one that's left, even though it's only been a season and a half. So first off, for Seattle, I really like this trade. I think that when you're struggling, because Seattle is similar to Boston, they've been right on that cusp in that wild card slot. You're not sure how things are going to go especially with how open the American League is. But now we have a solidified spot for them. They're going to be a wild card team. If Houston starts to crumble, they could very much take that division. But we're going to see a side of Seattle we don't get to see very often. Is this the year where they finally break their championship drought? I don't think they're quite there, but it's possible because of how open the American League is. And when you get into that World Series, it's a 7-game series. It's anybody's guess. It could be the Cubs. It could be the Dodgers. I know right now in the American League, the Padres have acted like they're going to do something, but I don't think they are. The Mets, the Phillies, the Braves, they're all saying that they're going to try and make some pushes. Right now, in a 7-game series, that lineup with Seattle with Suarez stands against most of those guys pretty consistently. So I like this, and the best thing about it is the Yankees were trying to go for Suarez because they need a third baseman. They need another solid bat in their lineup. And Brian Cashman and Aaron Boone completely whiffed on this and did not do what they needed to do because they had the resources for this. And it's still not even the same league, not even the same conference as the D-backs. So it's not like they didn't want to work with the Yankees because of that. But the Yankees dropped the ball. And so we might see the Yankees make a big swing today because they've got to do something.
That was actually going to be my question for you real quick, Seven. Because they whiffed on this, do they have a contingency plan? Do they have a plan B?
I hope they do. It's when it comes to infielders, from everything that I've seen. Now, I will not claim to be the most well versed when it comes to everybody that's truly on the who's truly on the board right now for trade deadline stuff. So it's entirely possible that there is somebody that I'm not thinking of, but the Yankees need to figure out something, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens, because we now have I'm trying to think of who because they after grabbing Austin Slater yesterday, they still need another outfield piece, because realistically with Judge right now, he's going to need Tommy John after the season. Based on everything they're seeing, they're not saying it, but that's how it looks. We're going to see Judge DH for the rest of the year. And then after the Yankees season is over, Judge is going to get Tommy Johns, and he's going to be out for a while, and then he'll come back and he'll DH. We're not going to see Judge in the outfield again until the 2027 season. Stephen Kwan is another piece. They could, at least strengthen the outfield a little bit. That could be something that they do to fall back on. The Yankees could try to grab, if they want to try and bolster their bullpen a little bit, I could see them going for Mason Miller from the A's as another piece, trying to kind of pivot and put some resources in there. But it's when I think about guys that can play third base that would be on the market, I don't know what the Yankees are going to do. So I think they try. My prediction for the Yankees is they're going to try and bolster their pitching a little bit more. And I think they're going to make a bigger push for Stephen Kwan today than what people might thought. And I think they're really going to make it hard for the Dodgers to get him, because the Dodgers are the other favorite in that scenario. So it's the outfielders are going to, yesterday relievers were at a premium. Today it's going to be outfielders.
I do have one more baseball question, because I've heard a lot of talk about it. And I wanted to shoot my opinion on it. You can see what you guys think. It's been a lot of talk about, does baseball need a salary cap? And you know what? I really don't think that's that big of an issue in all reality. I think baseball is one of those sports where there's a lot of parity in it already. Got like a lot of new teams in small markets winning titles. Is it just me, or is the salary floor more important than a salary cap? Because, at least there's a lot of different teams winning a title, and I think a bigger problem is a team like Pittsburgh wanting to shed salary when they only have $88 million of it. So, I almost feel like having a minimum spending floor to help push some of these bottom teams like Pittsburgh to want to remain competitive feels more important than an actual salary cap in itself.
You're not wrong. And here's the thing. So, but it's kind of a double-edged sword. So you've got teams like Pittsburgh, like the A's, like Chicago, that are saying they're trying to shed salary, and they're not even over $100 million in payroll. And they are bottom basement teams. The Rockies are another one, basement team, saying that they need to look at making moves to shed some payroll. Okay. Right now, or up until the break, the Tampa Bay Rays were in the middle of the wild card seeds. Actually held a few games on Boston. We're pushing New York for that first seed. And we're all around decent. The Rays consistently can win the division, can have a solid wild card slot, 100-win seasons, year in and year out. They are the actual team that's good at Moneyball, because they'll have a $100 million payroll and win 100 games. They won't do much in the postseason, but they can at least be a contending team. So does baseball need a salary floor? Absolutely. And that you've got Manfred almost getting pushed out of the Phillies locker room, which, by the way, I need to get me a Bryce Harper jersey, because any man that looks his boss in the face and tells him to get the F out is my hero, because we've all been there and wanted to do that ourselves, I'm sure. At some point in our lives, we wanted to do that. So, Bryce Harper, this bud's for you. But it's my plan is simple. If we're going to do a salary cap, let's go ahead and put that on the table for a second. The other side is we have to have a salary floor. That's the only way, because the players want a salary floor. Some of the league owners want a salary cap. So here's what we do. Let's say, for example, we're going to set a salary cap of $350 million. Because realistically, if in today's game, if they were to do it, that's probably about where it would land. $350 million salary cap for your 26-man roster. Okay, guess what? The salary floor has to be 65% of the salary cap. And if a team doesn't spend that money gets spread out to the players anyway, based on playing time. And obviously, when we make an adjustment for like pitchers and relievers and stuff like that, because they can't play the same amount of innings that a fielder can, because it's not right that, Camilo Duvall ends up on a team that's not spending, and he's closing 3 games a week, but he's only playing 1 inning, so he doesn't get as much as, say, an everyday outfielder like Steven Kwan. Like, he should still be compensated because he's still doing his part. It's not his fault the team's not spending. So they balance that stuff out with a formula, however they want to do that. Those math guys, that's what those nerds are for. But you make sure that the teams understand, first of all, if you don't spend, the money's going to go to the players anyway, and you're not going to get revenue share because it's going to go to that. And you're going to have to make up the difference still. And then you also put in a contingency that if you miss the salary floor 5 years in a row, the owners can force a sale. If you're not investing in your team, that's bad for the MLB. Teams like the A's, like the Rockies. Well, the Rockies not so much because they have a fan base, so I'll leave them out. Teams like the A's, like the White Sox, like the Pirates that are not investing in their payroll, ownership should be forced to sell if they're not going to invest. You have the Pirates as a prime example, a generational pitcher in Paul Skeens. Brian Hayes, who was just traded, an amazing, absolutely amazing third baseman. The Pittsburgh every year has pieces to build around. They trade them off. That's bad for the league because you're basically a farm team at that point. So we put a contingency in place that if you're not investing, you're out. But that's why the owners won't agree to it, and that's why the players won't agree to it, because the owners won't pony up to their side. They want the salary cap so they can pocket more money. But they won't put the salary floor in, and they won't put contingencies that hold them accountable, because then they have to actually spend money. And they don't want people telling them how to spend their money. They just want to be able to pocket more. That's what it is.
No, and that's fair enough. I would be interested if they did install a salary cap. I wonder if they would also like almost salary cap deferred money also, because that's obviously been a way around paying these guys the big bucks right off the bat. So it would be interesting to see that, and it would be kind of funny if they're like, yeah, you can only have deferred salary of like $300 million. It's like the Dodgers are $800 million over already. So it'll be interesting to see if they actually are able to get that into the next CBA.
It's not going to happen, but baseball fans need to be prepared. There's going to be a lockout in 2027. We're not going to get a full season. And I think this is why Manfred has already said he's not renewing his contract after 2029. We are in our last term of Robert Manfred, for those of you that don't know. Because this next CBA is going to be rough. And if they don't get it figured out quick enough, it's going to be very damaging to baseball. We're going to see a lot of guys sign deals this year that maybe they wouldn't normally sign, because they want to make sure they have some guaranteed money going into that, so that the strike insurance will at least guarantee them pay while this goes on. But I think we see, I don't think we see a full 162 in 2027.
Oh,
Really?
No, that's fair enough. By the way, I think this is the perfect transition to basketball. Mo, I just saw your thing. It says Kobe and Hakeem 5 to 6 rings, and I think that is beautiful. Say, we all know what's been going on, especially with Shaq saying he's winning 3 in a row with T-Mac, etc. So I definitely think that's a great clapback to that.
I'm here for it. I just feel like if we're going to go that route on the what-if scale, what would Kobe Bryant do with prime Hakeem Olajuwon? Like, what would stop them from winning 4 or 5 rings?
That is a really fun theoretical, honestly. I love the idea of those two teaming together. And you know what? I'm here for it. Theoreticals, I think, can be fun, and one like that is fun. One I didn't think was fun, Mo, and I sent this to the actual like wire to wire group chat. It was the clip of John Wall going, "Yeah, we would have beat the crap out of Cleveland in the 2017 playoffs," and I'm just like, "Oh, brother."
Yeah, I saw that clip. Come on. Come on.
He's like, on the starting 5, we can even match them, and we have a deeper bench. I'm like, even if we're being nice, and let's say John Wall could match Kyrie, and you can go Bradley Beal over J.R. Smith, Marcus Morris can match like 70% of what Kevin Love can do. Gortat over Tristan Thompson or whatever you want to do. The problem is, can Trevor Ariza even match like 1% of the damage that 2017 LeBron can do? Like that in itself is such a massive difference, and I'm like, no, you're not.
Somebody needs to explain to John Wall how basketball works. Take Trevor Ariza, take John Wall, and take Bradley Beal. I'm just make that a trio, and they don't equal LeBron James by himself. Do they? Do we not? Does he not understand how that works?
Oh, that's great.
I get having confidence in your team, but I'm like, man, they're like, oh, we almost beat them twice in the regular season. I'm like, you do realize how great of a playoff riser LeBron James is? Like, you can almost beat him in the regular season, but that guy was locking in into a different level in the playoffs. Like, there's levels to what he does in the regular season and playoffs. So I thought that was the funniest thing ever. Like, no, you're not. Stop it.
People forget that, just like what you said, people forget regular season LeBron and playoff LeBron are virtually two different players. People forget he's holding back during the regular season. There's a dam there that's keeping that flow so that he has it in the postseason. He becomes it's like he's a young man again. That postseason energy hits him. It's like a vampire that has sucked the life out of somebody. All of a sudden he's just like, rah, and he just goes. Right. Like that's I respect John Wall, but come on, man. Come on, man.
See, but that's the frustrating part about where we are in sports today. Guys just don't go, well, this is my career and this is how it went, and I'll just stand on my career. What they do now is they present an alternate universe where they were better than they actually were, or where they were more successful than they actually were. Yes, you can make a claim that the Wizards had more familiar players on their roster top to bottom, but what you're ignoring is you have one of the two greatest players who ever played basketball, and there's a huge gap between the Wizards' best player and the Cavs' best player. LeBron is a Mount Rushmore player. John Wall is a player that still has to buy a ticket to get in the Hall of Fame. It's a big difference.
Hey, John Wall is a Wizards Mount Rushmore player, if that counts for anything.
You know what? Disturbing as that sounds, that might be true. But that says a lot about their franchise as a whole.
the revisionist history on some of these guys' career is the most funniest thing ever. I think my favorite example of that had to be from this past May, when our favorite guy that does this, by the way, all the time, like I didn't watch his entire career play out, Kendrick Perkins goes, he's talking about defending Jokic. In his own words, he goes, "You wouldn't want this smoke?" I'm like, what? Like, Jokic is going to go down on the arguably a top 4 center of all time. Like, his resume is absurd. And you're telling me he's going to look down at Kendrick Perkins and go, I want none of that, man. That doesn't work for me, brother. Like,
the leader of the locker room, Kendrick Perkins. Yeah, he definitely led that locker room.
I think that was arguably the greatest thing I could have asked for when we're talking about people like rewriting their own career. Yeah, that's true, Control. That man lost his mind a while ago.
Lost his mind because now Perk is locking down Joker. We are living. This is like the Marvel verse, and Perk's telling you what he would do on Earth 88 against another version of Joker.
He thinks it's like this one clip of 2K I saw of him. This one dude, he was defending a 2K version of Perk, and Perk did a little crossover and it broke Tyson Chandler's ankles, and then he hit this deep sky hook from like 5 foot out. I'm like, and that's who Perk thinks he is right there. Some combination of a guard and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Like I don't understand him sometimes.
What and the reality is, what's the difference? And I'm trying to be fair. What's the difference between Kendrick Perkins' talent or career or what he does and Tristan Thompson's? What's the difference?
Better marketing?
Well, yeah. You mean better self promotion? Definitely better self promotion.
Yeah, self marketing.
Right. But I would say they're the same guy. I would say they're the same guy. Like, it's like a mirror. They're the same guy.
I can't disagree.
Say, hey, morning, sir. By the way, he was just in the news not too long ago because he was talking about his top 10 point guards, and Chris Paul isn't on it.
I saw that again.
Did you see the list?
I didn't see the list. I heard the statement. No, I don't know the list.
All right, Mo.
I guarantee you, he probably put Rondo in there, right?
He actually did not. But
I thought I saw him on there. Okay.
No, so we're gonna play Chris Paul real quick with these guys. This is kind of funny. So, you know what? I think the first two we can just skip because obviously Magic and Steph.
No, they're good.
Chris Paul.
They're good. They're good.
And you know what? Third guy, I think he actually got right. I'm fine with it. Oscar Robertson. Cool with it.
I can't touch that one.
This is where it gets interesting. Chris Paul or John Stockton?
I love John Stockton. I think Chris Paul's a better basketball player.
Basketball player, yes. Guard, it is the thing, because if we look at what the guard is supposed to be, a pure guard, Stockton might have a slight edge in that. And I'm saying slight. Basketball player, I'm taking Chris Paul all day. But I think for the guard position, I think there's an argument for Stockton there.
So if you're going pure point guard, I think Stockton arguably is top 2, 3 as a pure point guard all time.
Yeah.
But I'm going on the list that like point guard isn't just a pure point guard, right? Because we're in a different era where a lot of these guys are scoring point guards.
True.
I thought what Chris Paul did better than most of them is he split the baby. He could score the basketball, but he could still drop 9 or 10 assists a game. He found a perfect middle ground. Whereas Stockton would give you 13 or 14 points and 11 assists. And then you get a guy like Dame Lillard that'll give you 28 points but 6 assists. I think Chris Paul found the happy middle ground. And look, I'm not hating on John Stockton. That kind of career, that kind of productivity, and then what he did on the back end of his career. was even more impressive. John Stockton was still an elite player into his early 30s. And I think people forget that. I hear you, Cottrell. I hear you 100%. Which, look, we could slide into a whole nother conversation about how underrated Karl Malone is, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Stockton was what the Jazz needed. I will say that Stockton was what the Jazz needed for what they had, but you can't tell me that if they didn't have Chris Paul in that same role, that the Jazz don't make a little bit more noise as a team because of how Chris Paul handles the floor. So I can give Chris Paul the edge there, but I think it's more of a discussion than some of the others.
No, and I would personally go Chris Paul over Stockton. I think Chris Paul has underrated longevity, and I think Chris Paul's peak just kind of blows Stockton's out of the water. That's the challenge with the John Stockton argument in a lot of these conversations is longevity, great. Consistency, great. Comparing his peak to someone like Chris Paul, who at one point was number 2 in MVP voting, was gave Kobe a run for his money in 2008. Like, it's tough to put John Stockton in a lot of those conversations. So I do think Stockton's a lot better than people give him credit for at times, but I can't have him over Chris Paul.
No, I hear you. I'll just say this though: Stockton in his heyday played against some dogs and held his own.
For sure.
Think about the guys that he more than held his own with. Guys who much quicker, more athletic, and he was right. He gave as good as he got. Like, I think he's underrated in terms of being a competitor and his mental toughness.
By the way, we're going to run through the rest of this list in just a minute, but it seems like we have a trade update. Seven, why don't you take us away? I heard there's a trade going on right now.
So last night it was announced that Andrew Kittredge was going to go to the Cubs, but there wasn't really any comp that was announced. They said they were going to formally announce the deal this morning. It has now been announced, according to Bob Nightingale, Chicago Cubs shortstop prospect Wilfred De La Cruz, their 17th ranked prospect, is headed to the Orioles for reliever Andrew Kittredge. Cubs still need a starting pitcher, but that bolsters their pitching a little bit more.
That's all right. The Cubs still suck anyway. Listen, I'm rooting for the Brewers. I always have to hate on the Cubs every chance I get.
That's fair. That's going to be a competition this year too. Brewers are stacked. That's a good lineup.
One thing the Brewers always do is we can turn anybody into like a really good pitcher out of nowhere. It's fantastic.
For sure.
It's like a pitching factory over there. Hey, you know what, Cottrell? You know what? Malone's off the court reputation is terrible, but I think at the end of the day, I think he just is a top 20 guy. I think he's right there in that conversation as a top 20 guy.
Top 20 player, bottom 20 human being.
Yeah. That's fair. That's fair.
Say, Suarez. Hey, we talked Suarez at the beginning of the show, don't we? Don't worry. 7 had you covered.
Yeah, that's such a huge trade for them. That's crazy.
Say, Chris Paul or Isaiah Thomas. I do like Isaiah on this list, but I think him or Chris Paul's a real discussion too.
It's a coin toss, but I'm going to give Isaiah the edge because he's the point guard that is a Finals MVP and he's the leader of the team that won back-to-back Finals.
Hey, that is fair enough.
You see, this is really hard because the part of me it just has a lot of respect for Chris Paul, not just because he was the Suns and I, up until recently identified as a Suns fan, but when you look at the body of work from Chris Paul, even if you break it down to per game numbers, Chris Paul statistically is better than Isaiah Thomas. So you have to look at it from the perspective of, is the eye test of Isaiah Thomas going to put him over the top of Chris Paul where you can overlook the numbers? Because Isaiah Thomas doesn't. Isaiah Thomas in his career didn't even play half of the games that Chris Paul has played. Chris Paul has played over 1,300 games. Isaiah Thomas didn't even break 600. So longevity already puts things into Chris Paul's favor, in my opinion. But is the eye test going to put Isaiah Thomas over Chris Paul? And I don't think it does.
I would push back on that. Like, yes, Chris Paul has played longer, but I'm not going to penalize Isaiah Thomas for doing more than Chris Paul did with a longer career. Like, the longevity thing is cool, but if you play longer and if you put up more numbers, but you have less success, why would I put you over the other guy who did more in less time? The eye test, the eye test would say Isaiah Thomas is the better player. Chris Paul has played on multiple stacked teams and come up short with no matter what talent he played with. What he never did was he never came up big. The closest he coming up big was the 1 year with the Suns, and they still came up short. Right. So I have to judge you on not just what you do in the regular season, but because again, the regular season you make your name. The playoffs are when you make your fame. Isaiah Thomas in the playoffs, markedly better than Chris Paul has ever been in the playoffs.
Well, but there's also the fact, I was just looking at this because I wanted to see what these numbers look like. Chris Paul has 4 first-time All-NBA, 4 first-team All-NBAs, a total of 11 All-NBA teams, 9 All-Defensive teams, and 12 All-Stars. Isaiah Thomas was only ever on 1 All-NBA team, never even a first-team All-NBA. He was also only an All-Star twice. So twice. He was only an All-Star twice in his career.
I think you're talking about another Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas that played for the Pistons was much more than a 2-time All-Star. You might be talking about the other Isaiah Thomas.
You know what? Hold on. Dang it. That's my fault. Hold on.
You're looking at the other guy. Trust me. It's not even close.
I do think Chris Paul, when it comes to the playoffs, it's so weird. His record and the no rings and all that won't show up. But I actually think Chris Paul was a much better playoff performer than people give him credit for. I think he has arguably the worst injury luck of all time. Like, that man will always find a way to get hurt at the absolute worst time. But Chris Paul has had some really big, playoff performances. Unfortunately, the one I really have to hold against him was that 2015 fiasco when they blew a 19-point lead against the Rockets in Game 6. And, that one was really bad. But I think
blew the Game 6 with James Harden sitting on the bench.
Say 3 games to 1 lead. But, yeah, I'll give Chris Paul some credit. I think even though, sometimes it might not look like it, I think he's a much better playoff performer than people give him credit for. I also just think he's one of the most unlucky in terms of injury history in that category.
I would agree with that part. He's had some really bad luck when it comes to postseason injuries.
That's still one of my favorite comebacks of all time, by the way. When I'm watching Jason Terry, Corey Brewer, Josh Smith, and there's even a Terrence Jones 3 in there, that was just the greatest thing that I could have ever watched live.
Josh Smith looked like Ray Allen for a quarter.
That was that's kind of when I knew the Clippers were in trouble. When Josh Smith fakes a drive, steps it back, hits a 3, I'm like, this dude is such a bad 3-point shooter. If he's drilling step backs and pull-ups from 3, yeah, the Clippers might be cooked in this point.
So no, I don't want to hate on Chris Paul because he's had a great career, and I think he's underrated in how great a defensive player he was too. But what I remember about Isaiah Thomas is I think by age 32 he was done. I think he was out of the league at age 32. So now you're looking at Chris Paul, who's 40. He's literally had almost a decade more of a career. I'm just saying I'm not hating on longevity, but you can't kill the other guy who did more in less time.
He did. I was able to actually find everything from the right Isaiah Thomas's career. He did have 2 finals championships. He did have a finals MVP. Chris Paul does have more first-team All-NBAs and more All-NBA teams as a whole, and Isaiah Thomas never had an all-defensive team. But, I mean, over the course of Isaiah Thomas's career, he definitely did more.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me when it comes to Isaiah Thomas not having an All-NBA. I like first team. It makes all the sense in the world because, like, I kind of just take into consideration the fact that he's playing at the same time as, like, Magic. And at that point, you're really not going to rack up the All-NBA first teams doing that.
No.
Like,
well, you're playing with Magic in Stockton.
Right. Yeah, because Stockton was in that era too.
Right. Like, so, Isaiah doesn't get a lot of individual accolades, but you know what I'm saying? Like, that's a tough thing. Because you could almost pencil Magic in for first team for the better part of a decade.
Yeah, and that's kind of why, like, sometimes with these awards, I don't necessarily, like, kill them at times. Because they'll be like, oh, this guy only made, like, a couple of All-NBA teams. Like, sometimes when we're talking about great, like, centers of the 90s, for example, they'll be like, oh, Patrick Ewing didn't make that many All-NBA All-NBA teams. I'm like, well, when you have to go get Hakeem, Shaq, David Robinson, like Mutombo's in there, like it's just such a murder's row of, competition for those All-NBA teams. So it's a perfect time to remind a lot of guys when you're looking at these All-NBA teams, make sure to take into context who the competition was because sometimes you don't have much of a prayer to get All-NBA first team, for example.
That's fair.
Say, and then these last 5 names there's 4 names I would go no, but there's one name that might interest some but doesn't interest me. Gary Payton or Chris Paul? I would take Chris Paul over Gary Payton. I don't even think it's that close. Say, the name that'll interest some people but not interest me, Russell Westbrook. I'll take Chris Paul.
I'm still taking Chris Paul. Yeah.
So
I've never.
No, go ahead, please.
I was gonna say I've never seen Chris Paul getting ready to shoot a 3, and the entire home crowd is going no. Like you never saw that with Chris Paul versus Westbrook. You don't have that kind of a name for Chris Paul like you do with Westbrook. So I to me that settles it.
Look, Russ might be the poster child for not judging guys just on numbers.
That's fair.
Because he has a statistical dominance that no other point guard has, and yet I wouldn't pick it if we're doing a top 10 point guards. I think he's in there, but he's in there because of his statistical dominance, not because he was better than anybody else in the top 10. Like I'm a Russ fan, but I know his strengths and I know his weaknesses. And I've always said this, in a late game situation, I don't want the ball in that guy's hands.
For me, like when I look at Russell Westbrook, you remember in Star Wars Attack of the Clones, there's that assassin that tries to kill Queen Amidala and then gets taken out right before they get to fess up to what was going on, and you see that poison hit them, and their face kind of shrinks in, and you see all those bones. That's what I see when I look at Russell Westbrook's face. But like Mr. Triple Double is why he's in the top 10. I agree with you there, but there are a lot of point guards that I would take over him just because when the game's on the line, it gets really sketchy. But when it's time to stat pad, he's going to drop dimes.
Like Russell Westbrook's biggest strength is also his biggest weakness. It's his biggest strength is he's going to go 100 miles an hour, insane athleticism, but him being able to play at 100 miles an hour just backfires because a lot of the time in the clutch is when you need to slow down and really assess and analyze what's going on. And Russ just going 100 miles an hour just leads to some truly horrific stuff when it's clutch time. And
I think there's a way you can look at this is that, to me, Russell Westbrook, as great as he is numbers-wise, freakish athlete, I get all that. And you're right, 100 miles an hour, relentless competitor. But isn't Russell Westbrook kind of like a bizarro Derrick Rose. What's
Hey,
up, Seven?
What's
Seven's
up?
excited.
Shane Bieber to the Blue Jays.
Whoa.
The Blue Jays are making a push. That is huge. I did not think that was going to happen. Wow. Shane Bieber to the Blue Jays. I'm not seeing compensation yet, but John Heyman and Jeff Passan both say that's a done deal. That's huge. Jays fans get excited.
I just got that update. Yeah, no, that's a big one.
That's huge.
I love seeing teams go all in to make playoff pushes. I love to see it. So yeah, there you have it. Shane Bieber is now a Toronto Blue Jay. We the last three names. I don't think any of them are better than CP. Steve Nash, interesting one. Wouldn't put him ahead of CP3 though.
Nah, even as a Suns fan, I agree.
That's so unique though, right? I don't disagree with either one of you that I would take Chris Paul over Steve Nash, but I think it's very unique. Like Steve Nash was a 2-time MVP, and you'd put a lot of guys over. Again, I'm a huge Steve Nash fan. I think he's one of the most gifted offensive players in NBA history. Like, if he wanted to, Steve Nash could have averaged 25 points a game. Like, you forget his jump shot, his shooting ability. You can put that up there with anybody. Just a dynamic talent, but a great facilitator. Like, he was the perfect point guard for what D'Antoni wanted to do. They were by far ahead of their time in what they did. So I get it. I do think Chris Paul is a better player, but I'm talking about better players, the complete better player. If you were just saying as an offensive talent, I wouldn't take Chris Paul over Steve Nash. I wouldn't.
Offensive talent, I get that. Like, there were some times and I also think that to a point, Jason Kidd sometimes doesn't get the respect that he deserves. But Steve Nash was a fantastic offensive talent. But there's also the argument that second MVP he got, really he shouldn't have gotten. Like, that's always a discussion too. So
that's not the Shaq one, right? Because I lose my mind. It's not okay. It's not, as long as it's not that one, because I lose my mind over that one.
That was I think it was LeBron and Dirk were the runner-ups on the second one.
Yeah, it should have been Dirk, right? I mean, but personally, that one should have been Dirk. But that for me, like, I will always love Steve Nash. Great player, but I just, again, total body of work, I'm going to lean towards Chris Paul. And I watched Steve Nash for a long time. Saw him play live a few times, went to Suns games. But I would still take Chris Paul.
And I get that, because you could look at the other side of the basketball and Steve Nash gives you nothing on the defensive end, right? That would be the quick criticism, that he's the guy that you got to hide on defense because he didn't give you anything defensively. That's fair, but I always like to point out when people say that, I just want to remind people, 3 of the 4 top players in the league today, they don't play defense either. They don't play defense either. Luke, they're thinking because Luka's in shape that he's an early MVP candidate, which is great. I don't doubt that, but being in shape doesn't mean Luka suddenly locks down like Bruce Bowen on defense.
I've got to see it before I believe that he's actually going to play defense.
I got to see if he can. I know he got in shape, and I respect that, and I love that. But can he maintain being in shape?
Nico Harrison never stood a chance against the Lakers propaganda machine, because this is like World War II levels of propaganda we're getting right now. We got Luka going on like NBC talking about his weight loss journey like he just got off my 600-pound life. I'm like, what are we doing? I've never seen this. Like, I'm glad Luka got in shape too, but
for his health, I'm glad he got in shape.
Right, like why are we having like full on like NBC like fucking 60-minute segments on. Oh, I'm glad you're not fat anymore, Luca. Like, I don't even know what we're doing at this. I just thought that was the funniest thing ever when I saw you had a whole like interview and like article about it. Like, well, Lakers machine stays undefeated. Say that. Ironically, the last 2 point guards that Kendrick had were Kidd and Kuzi, and I'd take CP3 over both. But shout out to Jason Kidd, arguably the best guard defender I've ever seen in my life.
J Kidd's underrated. He's underrated because he was a great leader. And I would argue he's defensively, he's one of the most dominant on the ball defenders in NBA. Just a terrific defender. Don't forget, J Kidd was a big point guard. He had the ability to guard two guards and small forwards. I mean, that's how gifted he was and how physical he was. To do what he did with that Nets team, take him to back-to-back finals, that was no small accomplishment.
And
I was going to say, the other thing that I would say that doesn't get talked about enough is Jason Kidd's passing was elite. He could put that ball exactly where it needed to be without looking like when – one of the things I loved about watching Jason Kidd when he was with the Suns is he like the no-look passes and the way that he distributed to keep control of the floor and everything like that was something that I don't think he gets enough credit for.
Steven, you're a Suns fan. I'm curious. Who's your favorite Suns point guard all time?
I honestly, I think recency would probably lean towards Chris Paul, but I would say overall it's probably going to be Steve Nash. Maybe it's just because I have a lot of fond memories watching Steve Nash, run the floor. But Jason, I'm definitely torn between him and Jason Kidd. But for me, it's a slight lean towards Steve Nash.
I got you.
Oh, Luka went from Oliver Miller to Wemby. Yeah. it's amazing what joining the Lakers does for you. Like DeAndre Ayton too. That man, when Portland waived him, he was lazy, unmotivated. He had, nothing good going for him. He joins the Lakers, and all of a sudden, yeah, hey, you ever seen David Robinson, Hakeem, and Bill Russell? That guy's all three of them molded into one. I'm just like, huh?
I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah,
I'll believe it when I see it because the same problems that Portland had with Ayton are the same problems that Phoenix had and why Monty Williams couldn't get through to him. So until I see him get physical and stay engaged in the game, it's just propaganda to me.
100% agree with that. I would actually add that for him to do better with the Lakers is a huge challenge for him to me because the pressure is greater, right? Because you're playing with LeBron and Luka. So they're going to put more heat on him, more pressure on him. His history says he doesn't deal with that well. He doesn't deal with guys challenging him or coaches challenging him. So the first time Redick challenges him or yells at him for not making a rotation or not showing and recovering on defense, how does he handle that? His history says he doesn't handle it well.
He's going to check out.
No, the first time Lakers fans, I can't wait. It's going to be like the first game they're going to turn on him. They're going to watch him just do what he does best and start watching other centers just grab rebounds while he's kind of standing there, like the one infamous Jokic clip of pretty much Jokic doing a mid-game mic and drill with DeAndre Ayton just standing under the basket watching him and just doing nothing. The first time that happens, I'm kind of convinced that Lakers fans are crazy. They'll probably take his car and drive that sucker into the Pacific Ocean. It's not going to go well.
They're going to turn on him. I guarantee you at some point during the season, guys, they're going to be chanting for Jackson Hayes.
And I think the other thing that hasn't been talked about yet with this journey for DeAndre Ayton, LA sports media is not nice. Phoenix sports media, cakewalk. Portland sports media, cakewalk. LA sports media is up there with Boston and New York. he's going to get pressed by the media. And when he's not getting down in there in the paint, he's not grabbing those rebounds, and he's not being physical, he's going to get grilled about it. And that kid's going to break down. That's what's going to happen. Unless they actually get him ready for what he's about to go through, DeAndre Ayton is going to break down.
I agree.
Yeah, speaking of markets that aren't nice at times, I found it very interesting. So obviously in the WNBA we had DeWanna Bonner. She made a return to Indiana. Infamously earlier, Indiana fans feel like she quit on the team, and it certainly looked that way. Well, she made a return, and she got the ever-living crap booed out of her. It was the old anytime she missed a free throw booter, etc. And after the game, Kalia Copper went, "Oh, that's disrespectful for booing her just because it didn't work out." And my first thought was, I don't know if they're ready for Philly, because Philly, Detroit, those are passionate fans, and these players are very well. They're going to get it 100 times worse if something like that would happen. And for example, Philly. Imagine if the DeWanna Bonner situation happened in Philly, where she kind of gave up on the team and forced her way out. Part of me, I'm excited that they're expanding, but I also think that some of these ladies just kind of they just got to be ready, because some of these markets they're going into, they're going to treat them just like they treat the men, and at times that is not a great thing.
Social media is a brutal place, but Philly is a rough city, man. They get on you. Their sports media, their talk radio media, they are brutal. Think about what Philly did, just how quickly it changed. They loved Ben Simmons, loved him, and then the Atlanta series happened,
and he was toast.
Toast just eviscerated, and that followed him to his next stop. And he mentally, Seven talked about what Ayton might do. Ben Simmons checked out mentally from basketball 4 years ago. And he's never come back. He's never come back.
Yep.
Yeah. Even a more recent example, look what happened with last year. The Eagles won the Super Bowl. That didn't stop them from trying to, fire Nick Sirianni in week 5. Or even after they won. They beat the Saints 15-13, or just a really close game. And even though they won, it's maybe we should move on from Sirianni, guys. You're going into when it comes to fans like Philly and Detroit, they're some of the greatest fans in the world because of how passionate they are. You can't take away how much they love their sports teams. You fight for them, they'll fight for you till their dying breath. But on the flip side, you do something they don't like, they're going to let you know about it. So it's a double-edged sword with having such passionate fans. But I'm excited. I'm glad Philly's getting a team in Detroit. I'm just glad the WNBA is expanding. It's a long time overdue. See, I'm waiting for that Milwaukee WNBA team. That would make me real happy. Give me another sports team to go to. Hey, and little NFL, action before we get up on out of here. Well, the Bengals finally got it done with Shamar Stewart. Trey Hendrickson reported without a contract. I'm more interested on the Hendrickson stuff because I figured that, Shamar Stewart was interesting, but he got paid. He's happy, so, he's going to get to work right away. You think we're getting Hendrickson's best stuff, or do you think we're just going to kind of see him just go through the motions and sit out at the first chance he gets?
Oh, I'll go. Look, I think that as long as money remains an issue, I don't blame Hendrickson for taking the stance that he's taken. He's doing the now, what do they call it? Well, they report to camp, but they don't actually participate. So he's just kind of there being a camp ghost. Why would you have this lingering over your franchise going into this season? That doesn't make sense to me. This is a big year for the Bengals. and your best defensive player is still unsigned. And he's really just wanting his market value, and they're saying that's asking too much. I don't understand that way of thinking, but I'm not surprised by this franchise because everything they've done has been low ball or low brow for the last 20 plus years.
Trey Hendrickson is in the last year of his contract. I think what Trey Hendrickson is going to do, he's going to end up playing. Like, yeah, he's in camp, kind of sitting in, if you will, like Mo said. But he's in the last year of his contract. So at this point, the ball is in the Bengals' court. Either they get a deal done or they're going to lose him for nothing. And if you lose a player like Trey Hendrickson for nothing, that's going to make the issues that that the Bengals have this year or could have this year even worse, because you're also ending it with losing one of the best defensive players in the game. The best younger defensive players in the game, because he's right in his prime right now at, what is he, 31? Yes, his age 31 season is this year. So that is for me, this comes back to the Bengals front office being absolutely horrible. The Shamar Stewart problem should have never happened. And he held in, and instead of them getting a standard rookie deal, he's now guaranteed all 4 years because they wanted to try and screw around. Now you're at risk of losing Trey Hendrickson for nothing, because unless they give him I would wager that the price has actually gotten slightly above market value or more for the Bengals because of how they've jerked him around. But any other team might get a slightly better deal, because after this season, he's an unrestricted free agent. So, and nobody's going to want to, this isn't baseball. We're not going to see a team that could use a defensive piece trade for him when he's just going to be a rental before the deadline. That doesn't happen as much in the NFL as it does in baseball. So the Bengals are seriously at risk of losing Trey Hendrickson for nothing, except for what? A comp pick, maybe? Oh, we're going to lose one of the best defensive players that's in the game right now for a late third-round comp pick. That's not compensation. So the Bengals front office needs to figure it out, because right now they're a joke to pretty much everybody else in the industry, and that's with Jerry Jones existing.
It feels like if you're gonna do this all, you might as well deal him now at this point, because if I'm Trey Hendrickson, I wouldn't really have much of an interest in going back to Cincinnati.
Yeah,
but at the same time, like you said, if you wait until the deadline, then you're maybe gonna get a day 3 pick. Like, yeah, here's a 6th rounder. Here's the Zadarius Smith package. Yeah, he's great, but half-season rental, and then I got to pay him $30 million. And it's almost like with the price of edge rushers just continuously exploding, they could franchise tag him. But at that point, I think that'd be the most hilarious outcome to me, because now I'm just like, it might be cheaper to just extend him than franchise tag him next year. If you franchise tag him, you're just gonna piss him off even more, and he's definitely not showing up under the tag next year. So it feels like they've just kind of goofed around too much, to a point where, it's just over. You might as well get what you can for them, and slowly try to rework the defense over the next couple of years. Hopefully, if you trade them now with a full year left, maybe you can get a day 2 pick. But the longer you wait, maybe 3rd or 4th rounder you can get for them, that just starts turning into a 5th, 6th deadline. Maybe it's a 7th rounder. So, and then he just walks at the end of the year, or you franchise tag him, and you're doing this whole thing again, which sounds awful for everybody, including especially the Bengals fans. I don't think they want to do this again next year.
I don't think they do either.
But yeah, that's all the time we got for today. Definitely thank you all for tuning in. Seven, definitely thank you for joining us. Anything you want to add before we get up on out of here?
Just announced a little bit ago, Paul Sewald from the Guardians to the Tigers. I haven't seen comp yet, but that's another reliever moving. That's really the only other thing that's been announced so far.
Oh, fair enough. Say, every time I hear Paul, I think Skeen's like Paul Skeen's on the move. Give me that blockbuster. Nah. Say
Probably a couple of years away from that, but we'll see.
It's that awkward spot where you know that they're not going to trade him because he brings in too much revenue. At the same time, you know they're not going to pay the man what he definitely is going to deserve in a couple of years. So, say anything you want to add, Mo, before we get up on here?
No, appreciate Seven hopping on, keeping us updated on everything going on in MLB. Thank you, chat, for all the energy. We fed off of you guys today. Appreciate everybody that showed up for us.
And make sure you tune in tonight to the And One podcast. You'll see Mo and I again. We're going to be doing Mount Rushmore Pacific Division. So we'll be talking who are on the Lakers Mount Rushmore, Warriors Mount Rushmore. It's going to be a great time. Hey, and make sure to tune into the Mount Rushmore talks next week because we'll be talking Wizards and Hornets. So if you ever wanted to see Gerald Wallace, Glenn Rice, or Larry Johnson debate, tune in next week. In the meantime, thank you all for tuning in and enjoy the rest of your week and night.